Hey everyone, welcome back. So I hope you guys are having a great weekend. We're into Sunday now. Obviously the video that I posted yesterday on the new farm miner has gotten a lot of attention and a lot of questions. So I wanted to address that here. I'm also going to talk about, first we'll talk about Riot's production for January. We'll look at the numbers there and then we'll get into the new miner, some of the questions you guys had, some of the other things that I kind of learned a little bit along the way here over the last 12, 16 hours or so since posting the video. So we'll get into that and we'll call it a day. So as always, I have to preface this by saying not financial advice, for entertainment only. Do your own research, don't fall for scams. Spam posts get reported and deleted, and I'm invested in the following companies and coins, just as a full disclosure. So let's get into Riot. So Riot Blockchain announces January production update and operations updates. So if we scroll down here, we can see that they're obviously building out quite nicely here at their, believe this is, what is this here? This is one of their facilities here. I can't remember the name right now off the top of my head here, but Winston, I think it is. Yep, Winston facility. So here's the CEO of Riot, Jason Les. We are pleased to share that miner deployments in one of our immersion cooled buildings are now fully underway, which is great news. So this is good, really good to hear. We have refined our process for driving immersion-based miners installations and are now initiating tests on productivity and enhancements supported by this cooling technology. So this is actually fantastic. Obviously, one of the things we want to find out is how much can they actually increase the hash rate on these miners that are being immersion cooled. But it's nice to see that they have obviously fine-tuned the process for installing them, because it is a different process than just regularly plugging them in. You do have to obviously immersion cool them. You have to take off the fans if the miners came with fans and things like that. So it is a different process. We expect to see an increase in our hash rate capacity as we continue to execute on deployments in the newly completed building F and soon to be completed building G. Additionally, we have been closely monitoring the current weather conditions in Texas. So did a video on this earlier last week when they provided this, that they might be shutting down, and the potential impact they may have on the supply and demand of energy in the ERCOT grid. As the largest Bitcoin miner by developed capacity in Texas, Riot is currently curtailing its Bitcoin mining operations at the Winston facility. Riot employs nearly 200 full-time team members at the Winston facility, in addition to another 400 contractors in Rockdale, Texas. We deeply value our relationship with our surrounding community and broader state of Texas. So this is them helping out, obviously, with the cold coming in. They're shutting off the miners, so there's plenty of electricity to go around for the local communities, cities, and towns. So that is good. So here's the production update. So in January 2022, Riot produced 458 BTC, an increase of approximately 252% as compared to January of 2021 production of 130 BTC. So that is also fantastic. As of January 31, 2022, Riot held approximately 5,347 BTC, all produced by the company's self-mining operations. So that is also great. Riot currently has a deployed fleet of approximately 32,552 miners with a hash rate capacity of 3.4 exahash per second. So that's where I have them at as well. So we'll take a look at the numbers there. And there was something else here. Mining deployment and shipment updates. So since its last monthly update, the company deployed approximately 3,000 S19J Pros with 7,924 additional miners staged for deployment. So that is good to see as well, that they have those ready to go. Additionally, 5,768 S19J Pros have been shipped from Bitmain and are expected to be received during February 2022. Once the stage miners and those from the February delivery are deployed, Riot expects to have a total of 46,244 miners deployed with a hash rate capacity of approximately 4.7 exahash. So that's going to be awesome. So we'll see how they are doing then with the numbers and everything that I have for them. So let's take a look at the numbers that I have for them now. So we do have them obviously mining 458 Bitcoin in January. In December, they only mined 425. So that's a nice increase of 33 Bitcoins for the month of January, and basically a 7.76% increase in the month that they produced. They did report around 32,000 some, what did they report? They reported, I want to make sure I get this right, 32,552, excuse me. I have them at 32,640, so pretty close to that, but we are at the 3.4. I have them at 3.97, which is basically rounded up to 3.4 exahash. So some of these miners might be a little bit higher speed, but I don't know how I can get them to any higher speeds than they are already. Looking at the miners here, the 110 terahash, I think maybe perhaps that some of these miners here have been no longer in use or have been basically turned off, made room for the newer miners that are being installed. So that could be one possibility, but we are pretty close to what they have reported here. So for January, I did take out 2 days in January for mining, basically because, or actually it should be in, I don't know if they had it in January as well. Yeah, they said in January that they were shutting off. So I think 2 days I'm taking off here for January for mining. And then the new miners that were installed are these here. And that gets us obviously up to the exahash that we needed to be at the end of January here. So those are mining for basically 20 days in January. Based on that information, we have them at roughly 19.3 million possibly being earned for January. And we're using the Bitcoin price of, let's go back into the settings here. So January, I'm using 38,491 as the ending price for Bitcoin on that. And that obviously gets us to that fantastic number there. What else did I want to show you guys here? So here's January, obviously. February is going to be 28 days, so we'll have a little bit less earning in February, but they are getting more miners in. So once we know how many miners are getting in, we'll add those in, and then I'll obviously update the amount that they have made. So the possibility is there for them to actually make more than they did in January, depending on how many miners they get in and installed. And then obviously March, we have 31 days in March, so that will be a nice month as well, as long as they don't have to turn off any of the miners for any cold weather or anything like that in Texas. That should be a good number there. And it also depends on where Bitcoin's going to be in February and March. So those things will also play into that as well. So the Bitcoin price will not change for January. February, we're still waiting for the end of the month, obviously. So that will be set at that point. And then March will obviously monitor that one as well. See where we're going. Right now, Bitcoin's doing pretty well. So we'll see how that continues on. Based on that, we can see that we can figure out the dollars per petahash per miner, basically. So on average, they're getting about 5,706 per petahash of revenue based on the 19.3 million here and being at 3.4 exahash right now. So we're getting that per petahash basically a month that they're earning on that. Also, if we look at their Bitcoin HODL position, so we know they have 5,347 Bitcoins. Their market value right now is 1.9 billion, so almost 2 billion. And their BTC value is roughly 221 million. Actually, that should probably be updated, I think, to... Nope, this one should be updated to... Nope, that one actually has a February Bitcoin price. So I'm using February Bitcoin price of... Where are we at here? 41,500, which is right around where Bitcoin is at right now. And so their HODL to market cap is 11.49%. Each share basically has $1.90 in HODL position in that, based on what they're hodling, and the number of shares out, which I have at 116 million. That could be kind of low. I think some of you guys have said that's kind of low. This is just the data that I'm getting from Yahoo Finance through this Apple Numbers app. And if we look at their analysis on the HODL position here, so market cap minus HODL, we have them at 1.7 billion. ASIC value, I'm just taking the number of ASICs that they currently have and basically installed, multiplying that by 7,000 for fair market value on those. And we get 228 million in that. So we have a remaining 1.4 billion. So the price to earnings price to earnings multiple for future earnings is 6.8 based on this number here, which I'm sure is going to increase because they are getting a lot of miners that are going to be getting installed this year. So that number is more than likely going to grow unless Bitcoin crashes down to 10,000 or something like that. But I don't see that happening. So I think this number is actually going to continue growing from here. So based on that, using a 20 price to earnings multiple at 75% net income from gross revenue, I have them at 30.82. The stock right now is at 16.57, so I think they are fairly undervalued right now. And if we use the last 3 quarters, which we don't have the numbers for the 4th quarter here, ended in December, when we do get that, we'll get this updated to see how close I was to that. But I'm saying right now, the last quarter, they possibly made around 58 million. I'm hoping to be within 5% of that. I'll be happy if I'm that close. Last 3 quarters, we know are pretty much, or current quarter estimates, sorry. The last 3 quarters are down here, which I have them estimated at 65 million for the October, November, December quarter. I have them at 65 million. They were at 64 million for the prior quarter and 34 million for the previous quarter from that. So that's the combination of those. We don't know how much they're going to be making on hosting, so I'm not including that right now. But they do have, I do have them basically at combined total 223 million. So if we're using a 50% net income from that, from gross revenue, and a price to earnings multiple of 20, this should be at 1914, and then 75% net income, I'm at 2871, based on the last 3 quarters and possibly this 4th quarter coming up here. So it could be obviously less of a price to earnings multiple. It could be down to like maybe 10, 15 or something like that. So basically half of that. So it still would be, what is that, $14 or so at the very, so yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I think based on their future growth, it should have a higher price to earnings multiple there. Okay, that was a lot. If I went a little fast, I do apologize. I want to get this stuff to you guys as fast as possible, not waste your guys' time. So I think that covers it for Riot. Obviously, great month for Riot. No complaints from me. They've done a great job. They're obviously way undervalued by my opinion here. But obviously, take it with a grain of salt. This is just my opinion here. Do not invest on what I have to say here. Let's take a look at obviously the Numiner thing. See what kind of questions came up here in the last last 12 to 16 hours. So let's take a look at that. So one of the questions was, where will they house the 60,000 miners? So here is, where we go? Here we go. So Numiner, obviously we talked about this yesterday. So one of the questions that came up was, where will they house the 60 miners? That is Sphere 3D and Gryphon. That I don't know. I have no idea where they're going to put all these things in. The other comment was obviously that this miner here looks a lot like the Cerberus machine that they have here, which is an outstanding machine that they built. This thing is a powerhouse. So it's the CS2, and the only thing I can think of, believe it or not, is perhaps, I'm just throwing this out here, you guys can comment on it, but perhaps they hired an outside or a freelance designer or something like that. Somebody grabbed this picture and altered it to look like they wanted it to look here. That's the only thing I can think of how this could come up like that. Some freelance, graphic designer just pulled that stock image from someplace, put his little own spin on it, and made it into the Numiner that we're seeing here. That's the only thing I can think of. So, that does look very shady, obviously, but the real part of it here is the technology behind the claims. Is that actual something that can be done? And then we'll take a look at this as well. So obviously the rebranded Cerberus machine, yeah, it does look like it. So that's a bad choice, obviously, for using that. I don't think this is going to look anything like it, but this machine by Cerberus is a monster. Thing has so much horsepower, it's crazy. But it's also pretty expensive. I think this thing is like over a couple $1 million for one of these. So that's definitely not going to be used for mining Bitcoin. So we can toss this out. I think this was just a bad job by somebody doing a graphic design on it, making it look like this thing, like a Mountain Dew on power, on steroids. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you about also was the connection between that they have here. So let me see here. Where was it? I think they reported it here. Where did it go? So Sphere 3D. Where was it? Learn more. Miner leadership. So that's miner leadership. We know that. There was something about them using Taiwanese Semiconductor along with Foxconn and somebody else. I think it was here. Yep, there we go. So here we go, TSMC, right? So Taiwanese Semiconductor, Foxconn, and Xilinx. And just within the last hour, I'm like, I know I saw this someplace. So I started doing a little digging. I'm like, I think I saw this on some of the miners that we have in my little Bitcoin mining farm that I manage. And sure enough, I was able to find something here. So this is for the Antminer. I think this is for the S9 board that they're using. So this is basically the little computer that controls it all. You have the miners, the actual mining, not the chips, but the wafers that the chips are on. Those, not the wafers, the silicon, no, geez, I can't think of it. The motherboards for the miners, for the ASICs are plugged into these spots here, and then you get the fans over here, and then you get the controllers, and you got the internet jack here, along with power going into it, and you got room for a little micro SD card in here. But I remember having to take one of these apart before and change out the motherboard for another one, and I remember seeing someplace, I couldn't remember whether it was on this little motherboard or on the actual ASIC board, but I did remember seeing it. And then I was looking at some of the pictures here that I was able to find, and sure enough, they have the ZYNQ chip here. The ZYNQ chip is made by Xilinx. I'm not sure if this is the exact same chip, but they do have obviously SoCs with hardware and software programmability. So that got me thinking, okay, so they have basically, I'm rambling on here a little bit. I'm trying to draw all this together for you guys. So bear with me, please. Well, here it is. Okay. So we know that, I talked about this yesterday's video as well, but obviously Apple uses Taiwanese semiconductor to make their M1 CPUs and their next gen CPUs that are going to be in 2022 possibly, which are going to use the 3 nanometer process. We know, we talked about the IPM. I tried to make a very thin connection between the CEO of Numiner and IBM's head, since he has worked there prior. But from doing some more research on it, I was able to find out that IBM's 2 nanometer chip process probably won't go into production for at least another 2 or 3 years. TSMC is just now starting to make the 3 nanometer this year. And here's where we know that. It says here, so comparing the new design to TSMC's 7 nanometer is well and good, but TSMC's 5 nanometer process is already in production, and its 3 nanometer process, which has a very similar transistor density, is on track for production status next year. And this was back in May of 2021 when this was published. So the validity of possibly having a miner that can do what they're saying is on specs. It appears to be, proven at least that it is possible. Now, where do I want to go from here? So we know that that is possible. So they are also, where was it? You might. So Foxconn, we know Foxconn is just basically a labor manufacturer facility. Foxconn is used by Apple, by some other brands as well to basically put all their products together. We know Taiwanese Semiconductor makes the chips. So if Numiner was able to get Taiwanese Semiconductor to basically create the chips that they need, and they use Xilinx to put all the chips on a motherboard, whether it's on the motherboard or whatever, but they could obviously do it because they do have the prowess for it. They have chips that are in space. They have chips that are actually in rovers in Mars, which is quite fascinating. And then obviously Foxconn to put it all together in a nice little package. That makes it feasible. Now, whether or not this is actually going to happen, that's the other end of the story here. So that's the hard part here, is figuring out if they can actually pull this off. You have a lot of parts that have to be put together in order for this to work out. One, TSMC has to make the 3 nanometer chips that would power these units. Xilinx would have to obviously make the little motherboards and other things, possibly even the ASIC boards to go into this new miner. And then Foxconn obviously to put it all together and ship it out to wherever it's got to go. So there's a lot of things that have to be done right in order for them to get shipments out by September, as they're stating. And obviously they need to get a couple batches made for testing in June for Sphere 3D. Based on the technology, so that's what I want to get to. Based on the technology, it looks like it is possible to make these miners. Will they actually save 75% on electricity? That is to be seen. Will the hash rate be 440 terahash? That is to be seen as well. Hopefully, Numiner can come out and explain how they have this thing look exactly like the Cerebus product here. Was it just a gaffe on their part and hiring out a freelance designer to put this thing together? I don't know, but hopefully they can come out and say, yep, we screwed up, or, what's the deal with it? So we need some kind of definitive answer as far as what's going on with these things here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I missed. I talked about the connection between the CEO of Numiner and IBM is a thin one, is very thin. And then obviously the 2 nanometer tech is still 2-3 years out, looks like. But the 3 nanometer tech could be a feasible solution to getting these miners to where they are being reported to be. So that is all I got for you guys. Let me know what you guys think about all this. I know there's a lot of stuff going on and it's all fluid, but I'm hoping that makes a little bit more sense. The biggest part, obviously the biggest question was, is it technologically possible to make these miners? And it is. Based on the information that we have now, it is possible. Whether or not TSMC is making the 3 nanometer chips already or is going to be making the chips, that's another question. I don't know that yet, but they stated they're going to be making them this year. So that's where we are at. So it is possible, but we still have to be very cautious, I would say, until we get some further data. The same thing is going to be said for Intel's miners. We have to be cautious as far as what they're going to say that they're going to be making as far as terahash savings and everything like that, until we actually get some hard data and some miners in the market to test out. But otherwise, it looks like it's possible. You know, obviously a big gap on the miner picture, but technologically it's possible, I think. At least I think. If you think otherwise, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from what you guys have to say on it. So that is it. Okay, I'm rambling on here. Have a great day. I'm done for today. I got a birthday party to go to. So you guys have a wonderful Sunday. I'll see you guys in the next one, probably tomorrow on Monday. And then we'll see where things go with Bitcoin and everything else. So thanks so much for watching. Also, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe, and notification bell. Helps me out. That's all I ask. Have a great one. Bye.